everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. It is me, and it is Nate. Nate, have you guys Brexited yet?
We have not Brexited yet. We haven't done a big Brexit. We haven't gotten all Brexity.
Nobody's hit the button yet.
No, Jeremy Corbyn refuses to push his stop Brexit button because he's too busy, carving statues of Hugo Chavez in his back garden. I hate it when he does that.
Yeah, he's too busy, stamping around the backyard and being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy Corbyn is running around basically saying that every time it rains, it's secretly a Mossad plot. I hate it when that happens.
Well, we have a couple of things for you. So if you are a member of the Patreon, we'll go ahead and kind of plug that up front here because recently, this past week, Monday, we released an episode where I spoke to a not a pilot, but the guy who sits in the back of the F-18, basically Goose from Top Gun. Talked to him about UFOs because apparently UFOs are very they happen all the time. I mean, if there's a flying object and somebody says, "What is that?" and you say, "I don't know," guess what? You have an unidentified flying object. So it stands to reason that you would see a lot of UFOs. So we brought John on because Tom DeLonge of Blink-182 released some videos of UFOs. And also there's a sentence that literally nobody ever expected to come out of their mouths. But, here we are. And John's squadron was the one that shot that video. And so we kind of talked about it. So you should definitely, kick into the Patreon to listen to that. But the reason why this long, convoluted plug for ourselves is coming at the beginning is because, the Area 51 Naruto run, let's go see them aliens, recently came by. That was the 20th of September, and currently it is, that was on Friday. So there's last Friday. Obviously, nobody stormed Area 51 because... it just turned out to be a big alien party. A bunch of weirdos showed up and harassed a bunch of government employees. And to be fair, that's like the greatest thing that could have ever happened out of that scenario was to irritate some people, especially government employees. However, along with all of this, there's a lot of people that with this Area 51, let's see them aliens. A lot of people kind of jumped in on it, ourselves included. The Area 51 veteran patch went out in our most recent zine. But we also, Nate, did not threaten to murder anybody.
We did not, no.
So Divids, which is, I can't remember what Divids, Defense Visual Information, something. So Divids... I do a lot with Divids, dividshub.com or .net, I can't remember which. Again, it's been a while since I've actually had to do some PAO bullshit. Divids is where we upload all of our stories, photos, videos, everything basically. It's a big repository for not only to be like kind of a news site, but also like anybody can come and grab stuff off of there and use it. So like my photos that I take and put up on Divids, like I've already been paid for those, right? Like the government paid me money to be on active duty or whatever to take those photos. So once they get uploaded to Divids, it's like basically free content. So if ever you're just like, man, I wish I could flesh this out a little bit with some, really boring spec stuff about, some military shit that's happening, or I need a really good feel-good story about a soldier who is stepping into his dad's boot prints in Afghanistan, but I don't want it to seem like an absolute hell world, you go to Divids for that, because there's those stories. I think I wrote one of them myself. I did it back in 2004 when it was less depressing. But so Divids posted a picture, which I believe since has been deleted. I tried to go find it recently, but yeah, they posted this thing. It basically says, the last thing #millennials will see if they attempt the Area 51 raid today. And it's a picture of, I guess, a bomber squadron in front of a bomber, which, now look, Nate, I'm not an aviation person. I don't fly airplanes. I'm not a air to ground, I don't know shit about it. But I would say that if you had a bunch of people outside of a front gate, you would probably not carpet bomb that area, unless like you were in kind of some sort of broken arrow scenario where it was just like, no, just fucking kill everything. I don't know.
It's
I'm
weird
not,
because I think that it's one of these situations in which the Divids and whomever basically wound up making themselves seem like way bigger assholes than they needed to, because up until this moment, the whole thing about like teens doing Naruto run at Area 51 was just such a dumb joke that nobody could look at this and be like, oh, this is a good idea. These people are smart. I sympathize with these people. Instead, they're like, what a bunch of moron teens doing dumb memes in real life. But then to have Divids come out and just be like, oh, we're gonna murder you with a B1. Like we're gonna drop bombs. Like an old dude, civilian in a Hawaiian shirt is gonna murder you. Like it winds up making them seem like way bigger babies and having way thinner skin than any internet edgelord possibly could.
I get it's a joke. I get that it's a joke. I understand that it's a joke. I understand everybody's wanting to get in on it, but there's two things that really stand out to me on this. Because one of them is obviously the implication of this will be the last thing you see, which, like, that's not how a stealth bomber fucking works, guys. Like, are you going to taxi it out there to shoot them or something? No, it's going to be way up in the air and you drop a bomb and nobody sees it. Obviously they don't have radar, but also it's a fucking bomber. You don't have to. There's no last scene here, anything. Secondly, can we please stop with the millennial thing? I'm 36 years old. I'm a fucking millennial. Like. And millennials, like the oldest millennials, are going to be turning 40 in next year. In 2020, millennials are going to start aging into their 40s. Like I know that we always say boomer is a state of mind, and I guess they're trying to make some sort of thing about how millennial is a state of mind. But like, you know what? If I had the time off and the money and the ability, I would have absolutely gone to do this. I saw, looking through pictures, I saw a couple, Riley Reid, the infamous pornographic actress, was out there. A lot of people. It looked like it was fun. It looks like a big party, and go figure. A government organization would be like, "Hey, it's a really funny joke, guys. Wouldn't it be funny too if we just like murdered you all with some white phosphorus or something? That'd be hilarious too, right? High five, everybody!" And then again, the millennial thing, guys. We're just people. Like, and also I've been in the army for almost 20 fucking years now, guys. We can stop this. You can stop this at any point in time.
It's weird because I'm also a millennial, and this morning I had to remember to put my false teeth in before I left the house. It's one of those things where I think that it's a weird kind of pejorative, and I think that's worth giving some thought to. That, I mean, I've encountered people in my professional life who will like derisively refer to other people their age as millennials, as if that connotes like a state of mind as opposed to just a demographic grouping. And obviously we do the same thing with boomers, like you said, but obviously there's also a definite boomer type, in the sense of when a dude is in your mentions on Twitter or elsewhere online with a sunglasses and hat photo from inside a car, getting mad at you about whatever and saying that you should go to Venezuela or whatever. It's very easy to make the point that there's just a super boomer, kind of type of behavior. But with millennial stuff, I mean, I think in a sense that what makes me laugh about this is that all of the troops at Area 51 or whomever who had to pull gate guard are probably either millennials or Gen Z, because they're literally younger than, like you said, the millennial age bracket. Like I think the oldest possible, or the youngest possible millennial is about 24. Pushing 25. I think they cut it off at 1995 being born, and after that you're Gen Z. So those people, if they're in their early 20s and such, are probably all Zoomers, and if they're older, they're young millennials. But I mean, it's a weird thing. Like you and I talked about this too, Francis. Like remember when we watched that Vet TV segment? I think that Vice did. And they were like the vets, like the GWAT vets, went to go out and have like their meet and greet somewhere in California, and the guy was just like whining about millennials and avocado toast and stuff. And it's like basically almost everyone who's fought in the global war on terror who was under the rank of, I don't know, captain or master sergeant, like barring the very early years, almost all those people are now are millennials. Certainly the enlisted soldiers. I mean, think about you were what? You were if the oldest millennial enlisting at 17 would be enlisting in 1997. I mean, so chances are really good that a lot of the Joes who were in the initial component to like deploy after 9/11 were millennials. It's just such a weird thing that, I don't know, has become this kind of this very strange shorthand for people to complain about stuff when it only seems to apply to people acting in a way that older or shittier people think is like capricious, and invariably it seems to connote white and like of a certain means and living in a city. When it's like most millennials don't have college degrees, most millennials don't live in cities, most millennials, I think if not most, then a significant chunk aren't white. But this group of mostly Zoomers, I'm pretty sure almost all of whom are white, who are internet edgelords, are somehow millennials. I don't get it.
I mean, it all falls down into the, you know, like, you want to say millennial because that annotates some kind of, and it generally comes from people who think that you should be doing some sort of army, some sort of military, something like where you should sacrifice. Like, I remember seeing somebody, like some conservative that I follow, say that, you know, Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old Swedish environmental activist, you know, and a lot of other kids, like teenagers, you know, they're talking about how they feel like their future is being taken away, and they have anxiety, they have climate anxiety. And no matter what, anytime you see something like that, you'll always see somebody just be like, well, in World War II, you know, we had men storming the beaches of Normandy. So, you know, these people, and it's just like, I just want to reach through and fucking tear people's like throats out with this shit. Like, that is the only time I really feel like violent against somebody, is the whole, like, because a lot of times it comes from people who have never fought in any war whatsoever. But also, like, it's that mentality. It's that, like, you're not doing enough. You're not sacrificing enough. You're a quote millennial. Like, that's the connotation. And I mean, hey, maybe it is just revenge for us calling Charlie Kirk a boomer, because, you know, boomer is, as we say, a state of mind. But like, millennial is it just really seems to be this like scattershot thing that everybody says to, like, yeah, just to be mad at like the person that was like that was in school with you, like, you know, hey, he sat next to you in Spanish and you went off and got a TBI after getting hit by an IED, and they went off and got a degree in communications and they enjoy going to brunch, and it's like, that fucking millennial. Like, that millennial's fucking smarter than you, buddy.
Which is funny to me, because when I came back from Afghanistan, I remember going to see a friend of mine in DC, and I went up staying with him a bit because he had like a basement and like a mattress I could sleep on. So when I had post-deployment block leave, I mean, I saw my parents for a little while, but Central Indiana was really boring. So I went and hung out with my friend in DC, and I hung out with all of his like millennial friends because we were all millennials together. I was 25. And, you know, like, we got brunch and like went to dive bars and stupid karaoke bars and shit like that and had a great time. And I was like, wow, this rules. I didn't realize life could not suck. Wouldn't it be amazing if I lived with other people like my own age and there wasn't this weird artificial barrier between officer and enlisted and all this shit I can't do in the various like down market parts of America I have to live in? And so in a way, it's like, hanging out with people doing brunch shit, having avocado toast, and like getting Bloody Marys, that shit ruled. I mean, now I feel old for that. Like, I would be a little. I would be past my bedtime. I would be you know, getting poor sleep if I had that much alcohol. But it's just strange to me because the idea that basically anyone who enjoys life and isn't suffering is somehow A, a millennial, and B, that's always a pejorative. Like, you almost always see it used as a pejorative. And we've said it before. You and I have said it. Other veterans online have said it. Other veterans in outside of, you know, social media, but rather just like in any kind of media, have made this comment that it's a really weird framing when you think about that millennials have effectively been the group that have shouldered the burden the most of not just the global war on terror, but also the worst parts of it. The Iraq surge, the Afghan surge, the pre-surge civil war part of Iraq. Like, the initial Iraq invasion, even, like, a lot of the, like, in a way, all of those framing, like you just described, it does such a disservice and it's just so lazy. And I guess to me, it's just strange that it's almost always used as a shorthand for like indulgent young adults. I don't know if you remember this years ago, but there was I want to say it was like an Economist story, and the headline and the shareable thing they had on Twitter was basically, why aren't millennials buying diamond engagement rings? And the number one or the top comment in the replies was a guy basically being like, I work in a grocery store. And it's a fair point that people want to blame. They want to refocus all of the economic disparities and the widening of inequality that's taken place over multiple generations, but primarily between, the late 70s and let's say the mid 90s, but certainly the late 70s and now, and say this is because of indulgence, as opposed to a very easily observable and quantifiable trend of the basic expectations of working life shifting in such a way that you'll have less security and less ability to save and less concept or hope of retirement at lower earnings, less of an ability to like have kids, have a house, have your family have medical care than your parents. And that's somehow to blame because we eat so many goddamn avocados. It's like, I don't like avocados that much, and I can't imagine very many people from my generation do. I'm sure there's a kink out there. There's always a kink, but I don't share that kink, and I can't imagine it's particularly commonplace.
Yeah, you talking about the diamonds, it reminds me of like that probably year and a half, 2 years, where like every week we'd get another millennials are killing whatever. And like if you look at those things surface level, they're kind of funny, but if you like really dive into any of them and sit down and do like let's question this. Like, okay, millennials aren't buying cars, right? So the article will say, oh, today's up and coming young millennial, they like to they just hop into an Uber, they can get to wherever they need to go, or they they're doing these things, not buying cars anymore because we have all these things. It's like, okay, well, I mean, first off, Uber and Lyft are fucking terrible, and they're absolutely, they're destroying a lot of shit. The gig economy is garbage, and it should go away. Secondly, maybe they're not buying cars because literally they can't afford them, or they don't have anywhere to store them because they also can't, as we see, millennials are not buying houses as much. Why aren't they buying houses? Well, they like to live millennials like to live, 7 inside of an apartment building, or inside of an apartment unit, or this pod sharing thing, right? Where like you too can go to fucking Silicon Valley and San Francisco and pay $75 a night to like live in basically an open bay barracks like we used to, except that they have like TVs set up in it and the beds are a little bit nicer. Like. And it's just like, man, millennials sure do like doing this. Like, fuck, no, we don't, man. But like, if you look at every generation adapts to whatever situations that they're in. Like our parents always teach us, well, I don't know about your parents, I don't know about everybody else's parents. I have boomer age parents, and they always say, you get out of school, you go to college, and then you get the job, and then you work the job for 30 years, and then you get the gold watch, and then you retire, and then you quietly go to pieces, which sure is great, and that's what worked for them, but that's not what works for me, and that's not what's working for the next generation. Like I'm probably one of the last, barring any major changes in the way that we do housing or economics. I mean, I'm going to buy this, this new house that we're moving into. I'm going to sell my current one, and then that's going to be it. Like, I better hope that I don't ever have to buy another house because prices are becoming absolutely ridiculous. And there's no, there is no, like, you can go to your parents, you can go to conservatives that say, well, back in my day, and it's like, things are changed because we have to, because of the world that you fucking created. So this isn't a boomer, millennials are killing, the paper napkin industry. Millennials are just like, the fuck do I need paper napkins for? I don't have a house that I can entertain people in. What do I need a car for? I can't, I will just get an Uber because I have the $5 now. I don't have, the down payment of $2,000. I don't have the, payment every month for fuel, for the car note, for the insurance. I don't have a place to store the vehicle. And I just, I'm just perfectly fine staying where I'm at. So it's like there's this weird economy that's been built up around hating millennials. And again, it's all a like a blame game. It's all about like, rather than take a look at the systematic failings of capitalism and the way that we have created this world, and where all the boomers got to buy up all the housing stock and then start charging rent, so that, and then not selling anything, so now nobody can buy anything decent. Rather than say maybe that's a systematic issue, instead they're saying, oh well, man, millennials sure do love living in open bay barracks, but for $80 a month. It's, as you all say on Trash Future all the time, we've just made the Soviet Union, but it's expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest point here too is that we have entered this very strange moment in which people, I mean, it happens here in the United Kingdom too, but I think America has always been based on this about, the default setting being to shame poor people for not being rich, and to say that anybody who isn't rich is a piece of shit who deserves to be poor and who deserves to be treated badly and taken advantage of. And I don't know if you've ever read the book Slaughterhouse-Five.
That was one of my required readings when I was a kid, when I was a teen or whatever.
Yeah, so there's a scene in which the author, the narrator, who is sort of a stand-in for the author himself, Kurt Vonnegut. And for those of you who haven't read it, I'd strongly recommend it, because it's a very, very affecting anti-war novel that's also like very funny and just very surreal. But he basically says that I'm paraphrasing, that in any city in America, in any down market bar, you'll find a sign behind the bar next to an American flag that says, well, if you're so smart, then why aren't you rich? And I really do think that same thing is applying to Americans now, to young Americans now. But like, when Kurt Vonnegut wrote Slaughterhouse-Five in the late 60s, the situation was way, way better for people in terms of like upward economic mobility than it is now. And it's that same phenomenon that people want to look at.
And let me add the asterisk, if you were a white male.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's me being a fucking moron white dude, not noticing that and forgetting to mention that. But then obviously, like, and I think that's a big thing too, is that my wife and I talk about this a lot, that a lot of the situation that we're in right now is that basically for the longest time, if you were white, you could expect to have things get better with each passing generation. That wasn't true for non-white people, and now it's not true for anyone. Obviously, the outcomes are still way worse for non-white people, but they're also bad for white people. And so this has created this strange moment. And so it's just weird to me to see the kind of weaponization of poverty against poor people, like in this way, where millennials, it's their own fault for being lazy, because, when I was a kid, I could just walk down the street and get hired for a job that would be the equivalent of like $120,000 a year adjusted for inflation, doing bullshit on the phone all day, and, buy a house for like the equivalent of a fucking penny. And now you can't. And people are like, why can't you? You're lazy, you're self-indulgent, you need to grow up, etc. And it just fundamentally misunderstands the situations that people are in. So it's weird to me to see this happen, and it's weird to see this happen in such a way that it winds up becoming, if boomer is a state of mind, then people who are boomers of the mind, bandy about the term millennial indiscriminately to describe people that they think aren't boomer enough, or like aren't trying hard enough. And the argument that you and I are constantly making is that no one ought to have to work that hard just to have a normal, decent life. So this has kind of gone a little off track from storming Area 51, but the whole Area 51 thing was just kind of dumb anyway. I mean, I didn't expect anyone to show up, much less a decent handful of people. But it is weird to me that somehow winds up becoming kind of like intergenerational culture war.
It always does. I mean, and again, I will bet I didn't chase down that picture, but I bet that a millennial took that photo. And that's all I can. And at least half the people in that photo of that bomber were probably, most of them were millennials. And it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things that sticks in my craw. Like as the millennial that's done all the things that like all these people want you as a millennial to do, to, that hates on millennials, and then to still see them just be like, well, shut up, millennial. And this is what I'm going to start doing now. Every time I see like a Navy SEAL being fucking ridiculous online, I'm just going to start calling them a stupid millennial. And wait for meltdowns to happen. Because before we started recording, Nate and I were going in on Carl
Higby has an amazing fan art thing that used to get bandied about, where it's like Carl Higbie, American Navy SEAL or some shit like that, with him like doing like a flex pose, like a cool guy face, like with his cool ass watch. And there's in the background is like photoshopped explosions and bullets flying, but the bullets are flying with the shell casings. And you're like, are you throwing live rounds at people? Like, what's happening? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna post that some in the thread. But yeah, I basically am making fun of Carl Higbie for Carl Higbie is trying to shame Greta Thunberg for being a climate activist because his brothers died in Afghanistan. Basically, his brothers didn't die in Afghanistan for you to say we shouldn't die from climate change. And he's losing his mind. So obviously I made fun of him, and this has spiraled out of control. And part of me loves it because I can dunk on him. The other part of me hates it because I'm going to have, DMs and Facebook messages full of cat, dog, fish, sunglasses in the car, Avi fucking boomers telling me to kill myself, which I love because they want to fight veteran suicide, but they want me to kill myself and raise the veteran suicide statistics, which, I mean, that's not just unfair, it's also self-defeating.
I want to read, somebody told me to say that to Carl's face, and he said that he would bet his kids, I bet my kids you wouldn't say that to Carl's face. And then somebody says, you can't get yourself out of child support that easy. And he says, I pay child support to my ex-whore-ass cheating wife. Your point? I guarantee you wouldn't say shit to Carl Higbie or pay his child support. What the... That is such an energy.
Please.
That is so... I've already retweeted it.
Oh my God.
It is the most incredible, like, to have... This is the thing that I love about the boomer state of mind that I'm jealous of, is just the no shame, because it's like I'm not ashamed of this. I'm not ashamed of my whore ex-wife, and I'm paying child support to her, and I'm going to bet my children that you wouldn't tell Carl Higbie to go fuck himself to his face. It's like, I don't care. What's he gonna do? Punch me? I've been punched before. Fuck it. Carl Higbie's a dude that got like let go from his dream job in the Trump administration for being too racist for the Trump administration.
Imagine being so racist that Donald Trump has to fire you. Like, that's the level this guy crossed. It's incredible. It's unreal.
Yeah. So absolutely, I absolutely love every Navy SEAL, because every Navy SEAL online is, one, extremely online, and two, very insane. And they love America. They love being a Navy SEAL. They would love it if you would buy their book. And they would love it if you go to their website, which I went to Carl Higbie's website and my eyes about bled out of my brain, because it was just a bunch of like giant picture. Like, it's one of those things where you click on it and just like, why are all the pictures and words huge? And then you realize this is made for 70-year-olds. That's right. But anyway, Carl Higbie was born in 1983, just like me. So Carl Higbie, shut the fuck up, millennial.
Exactly. Also, Navy SEALs like Carl Higbie love doing cocaine, apparently, because there's been some huge problems with them failing their damn drug tests. And there's somebody else in the U.S. Navy who likes to do cocaine, Hunter Biden.
Holy shit. So look, I'm not going to say that, like, Donald Trump probably has broken some laws with the whole, hey, Ukraine, I'm not going to give you money, give you the money that, whatever aid that we normally give that we give Ukraine. But also maybe you should investigate Hunter Biden. Maybe you should look into Biden's son, Biden being the top front runner at this time for the Democratic nomination. And God, it's one of those things where you're just like, oh, there goes Donald Trump again, breaking laws, and we're not going to do anything about it. But like, also, Hunter Biden absolutely needs to be investigated, and probably all of the Bidens. Like, we've talked many times about how Hillary Clinton probably should go to jail, along with Obama and a few other people. But goddamn, Hunter Biden is just one of those, like, I mean, he's like literally is a crackhead. Like, literally, he's smoked crack. Like, he got kicked out of the Navy for doing blow, which, like, if you are the son of the vice president and the Navy kicks you out for doing cocaine, because I've seen people get pop hot for a wide variety of things. And generally, it's just like, okay, well, you're a decent enough soldier. We'll keep you in, or we'll, do something. You can't re-enlist, things like that. Nate, I don't know. Maybe cocaine's different. Maybe all I've known are people that pop top for weed, and it's different.
Yeah, coke is a pretty hard one to come back from because, like, if you pop hot for coke, CID has to be involved. Like, it's a way higher penalty. At least that's what was my experience in the Army, and that may vary based on duty station or command or what's it called, combatant command or stuff like that. But when I was in Alaska, shit was a lot harder in terms of how much stuff came down on soldiers when they pissed hot for coke versus when they pissed hot for weed. But I still think that if you're the son of the vice president and you're an officer, like, I don't know what you have to do to fuck up that badly so that you wind up getting kicked out for that, and not just like some local file Gomar and general under honorable discharge kind of shit. I mean, your dad is the vice president. Like, I mean,
yeah, it's nuts because yes, that is where you think, well, the privilege will save you, and it's like, okay, if privilege didn't save you, there's something weird going on here. So Hunter Biden leaves the Navy in disgrace. He, as I said, has bought crack cocaine multiple times in LA at one point, like, from homeless encampments. Again, this is the son of the vice president who can't even send a guy out to get crack. Like, he goes and gets crack himself. I don't know if that's a real go-getter attitude, if that's something that we should be praising. It's just like, good for Hunter for going out and getting his own crack cocaine rather than like just sending somebody. He accepts the danger on himself, or maybe he just doesn't want to have to wait. Like, when he gets the crack, he wants to smoke it immediately because that's how much of a crackhead he is. But so after, spending some time getting kicked out of the Navy, he goes and is given a position on an energy board in Ukraine and makes like $50,000 a month. I don't know.
Very normal.
I don't know what. Look, we all have different career paths, and I understand that. I am curious to see what his resume says that would make anybody say, okay, yes, we should absolutely be giving you $50,000 a month to go to a foreign country and to sit on this and and give us advice. Like, he did coke in the Navy. Like, he bought crack in LA. Maybe sales tactics. I don't know. What is this? What is this career progression? So yes, I fully believe that Ukraine, on their own, somebody, Mueller's probably not doing anything right now, right? Let's get Mueller to look into it, because the thing is that, like, if it was just Hunter, if you just said Hunter did a bunch of blow and he smoked crack and he lives in his dad's pool house or whatever, fine, whatever. That's not really everybody has the black sheep of the family, or every family has a black sheep. But, you don't get that position without there being somebody getting you that position. And when you're the son of the vice president, that's going to immediately make me think, okay, so this is where you got this from.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this too, that, I mean, on one hand, what Donald Trump is doing is bullshit in the sense that it's absolutely insane beyond the pale to say, I'm going to interface with a foreign power and ask them to use their legal, judicial, investigatory powers to go after the son of my political enemy, my presumptive political enemy, so that I can weaponize that to weaken him in the election in the U.S. That's so beyond the pale that it's just, I mean, people are still trying to get their jaws off the floor at this point. But at the same time, I don't think that it's a wise decision on the Democrats' part to look at whatever the fuck Hunter Biden is doing in Ukraine and say, I'm sure this is fine and it's not going to affect Joe Biden in any way. Because I feel like there was this similar kind of tint of hubris with regard to Hillary Clinton and her email server and the speeches at Goldman Sachs and the total inability to confront reality. Like, Joe Biden's only appeal is that he was the vice president to a very popular Democratic president. That's it.
That he can't even remember the name of.
Yeah,
and he calls him President My Guy. Like, even Obama hasn't endorsed Joe Biden and specifically said, Joe, you don't have to do this. Joe Biden's presidential run is hubris at this point. It's I bet I could do this. I bet I could just waltz in and do this. And if it was 10 to 15, maybe 20 years ago, Probably, he would probably be able to old white guy his way into it just by kind of showing up. But now everybody's just kind of yelling at him, and he's still incredibly popular. But I don't know. We're gonna see where this where it goes, because I see Warren's doing a lot better, and Warren is kind of like, if you took Bernie Sanders and was like, make Bernie Sanders a capitalist, that'd be Warren, which Warren sucks, but whatever. That's not the point here. It is it is absolute hubris that Biden is running, and I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for like the abilities that we have to check media and to run background stuff on these people, and to be like at your fingertips, always know like that Joe Biden was against school deseg, and that Joe Biden was against busing, and that Joe Biden is just like a massive racist asshole, he'd be like, 50 points ahead at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing too is just, this is a situation in which I feel like people who are in the military know how far down the path of being fucked up you have to go for this situation to be playing out in your officer career. And in the sense that if you're an officer and you piss hot, if you're not connected, the chances are really, really good that you're not going to recover from it career-wise. You might not be kicked out immediately, but you're probably going to be barred from promotion, and you're going to wind up getting out. And I don't know what the characterization of service is going to be, but it's probably not going to be an honorable discharge. I'm going to guess it's going to be a general under honorable. That said, I mean, with officers, it's different. I've never seen an officer go down for pissing hot for drugs. I'm sure it's happened. I remember when I was a cadet that some cadets got caught when they went to camp because you had to get piss tested. They pissed hot for weed. But I don't know about commissioned officers, because I mean, I don't know what happens. I've never seen it happen. I've seen officers go down for a bunch of things, but never drugs. But I feel as though that someone who is as politically connected as Hunter Biden, like we said previously, you really have to be running out of options. You really have to have fucked up so many times that they're willing to assume the political fallout and the general level of why are you doing this. It's going to happen when they use the military, when they use the Uniform Code of Military Justice to prosecute somebody who is the son of the vice president. And so I feel as though this is a huge blind spot, and it's a really weird thing that they don't want to acknowledge, that this guy probably needs help, but he's probably not a particularly big asset to Joe Biden. And if you think that Donald Trump doesn't have shit on him, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think he would be trying to go after him in Ukraine if he didn't feel as though this was going to be a useful line of attack. Does that make sense? Like, Trump's a moron. Trump's a huge moron, but Trump and his shit dick enablers are going to do whatever they can to weaken whoever they think they're going to face in 2020. And
I mean, look, again, this comes down to, all it takes is for somebody to say, Joe Biden's son got kicked out of the military for cocaine use, and then he was given a position on a power board, like for a power company in Ukraine for $50,000 a year, while Joe Biden was doing stuff in Ukraine himself and trying to get things done. Like, if I tell you that, your immediate thing is going to be like, that sounds fucking fishy. Maybe somebody should look into that. Like, you don't need to be the president. Maybe somebody else read that and was like, hey, Mr. President, if you see Biden's up the head, here's something that we could do. Why don't we have somebody dig into it? Now, a smart president would have said, cool, have one of my people look into that and dig up some stuff and bring it to me, put it in a sealed manila envelope, and don't let anybody else see it, and not just be like, hey, Ukraine, I'm not going to give you any money until you do this thing for me. Which Ukraine kind of gets their balls in a vice and has to do it if they want that aid. So I don't know. If I was Joe Biden, I would have fucking checked my fail son into the Betty Ford clinic a long time ago to make him less of a liability. But as we see, also Joe Biden's brains are leaking out of his ears. So maybe he's just not that smart, and he's just like, well, this should be perfectly fine. Maybe all my son to get off the crack cocaine needs is a lot of money. I hear that if you just give a lot of money to drug addicts, that the addiction goes away. Maybe that was the idea.
Yeah, I mean, so when I look at this stuff, I on one hand I laugh because Trump Trump decided that he wanted to do Russiagate Part 2, that he felt that he could run up the scoreboard a little more this time. He could be the all-time top scorer in sedition and treason and whatever the fuck. Those are probably not the wrong terms. But you know what I'm talking about, like high crimes and misdemeanors, doing fuck all whatever. So that makes me laugh. Number two, it makes me a little bit unnerved because I worry that not enough Democrats are going to actually have the backbone to stand up to him, and not enough Republicans care because they're all venal fucking bog creatures. And I guess number three here, I'm worried it might work in the sense that the Democrats love a stitch up. They love a foregone conclusion. They absolutely want to make President Biden or nominee Biden happen, even though to me it seems like a terrible idea. And I feel like the experience of the 2016 primary and the 2016 election is that even with a red flag the size of, highway posters, billboard signs, they're gonna go with it anyway because they really don't like being told no. They really don't like dissent. And I guess that's the part of me that I feel like look at Trump as a horrible, venal, stupid, senile, sundowning idiot, but also use him as a weather vane in the sense that if this is what he's looking at, he's saying the quiet part loud again. This is what they are interested in focusing on, which doesn't bode well because if Trump gets reelected, then it's going to be even more horrible. And we're going to have more children in cages, and we're going to have more, fucking baby jails and more, children abducted from their parents and forcibly given up through adoption to evangelical families. We're going to have more insane federal judges who've never spent a day in a fucking courtroom, but they were in the Federalist Society or whatever the fuck, getting appointed to lifetime positions where they can just be like, determine that like anybody who refuses to pay their rent when their landlord doesn't make repairs is Antifa and has to go to a concentration camp. That sounds like hyperbole, but I mean, you think about where we were when Trump won election in 2016 and the kind of things that people said, oh, that's hyperbolic, you're catastrophizing, it's not going to be that bad. And then you look about what has happened since then. I don't want to know factually what a second Trump term is going to look like. And so to me, like, I know the candidate that I want to win in the primary, but what matters to me the most is beating Trump so that doesn't happen. And I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to see the warning signs and realize that Biden, beyond his, obvious not mental faculties and weird, creepy behavior, he's got some baggage. And I don't know where it's going to go, but it just doesn't look good.
It's going to be it's another Hillary. It's, somebody is being steamrolled into the DNC. And I think this year is going to be a little bit different now that Elizabeth Warren is doing better this time around. Like, I think Elizabeth Warren is the I guess the place where there's like, well, we can't do Bernie Sanders, obviously, because he's a Democratic socialist. But what if we have somebody who used to be a Republican and says that she, loves capitalism and she just wants to regulate capitalism? What if we had all of that, but also it's not an old man that can't stop smelling women's hair? That's Elizabeth Warren. So it feels like that's kind of the way that like media and everybody's kind of turning to is away from Biden and toward Warren. But yeah, Biden has always been a Hillary 2.0, and I mean, to be honest, I don't think Warren's got the ability to stand up to Trump, but we'll see.
I mean, yeah, and something that I should point out too is that when I interviewed Sam Knight from the District Sentinel for a bonus episode that we put out earlier this year, Sam told me that his biggest concern was that there's a tendency amongst Democrats, amongst what you might describe as sort of rank and file establishment Democrats, both people at like the national level party and in state parties who want Biden because, for one, they see Biden as this permanent link to Obama, and deep down what they want is to go back to the way things were under Obama. But any one of us can look at what happened, what's happened since 1979, but also what's happened since 2008, and know that going back to what the normal was under Obama is just not an option. And the fear is that boomer nostalgia, if you want to call it that, because I mean it's not nostalgia for the 1950s, but it's boomers with nostalgia, could lead us to a sort of steamroll Biden nomination and I just don't think that that's going to work. And I only foresee bad things happening.
Yep. So, I mean, look, we will always be, if you got to vote for somebody, we will always be a pro Bernie podcast. But if Elizabeth Warren, ends up taking the nomination, my only response is that's better than Biden. That's better than a lot. Let's be honest. Look, I know we're probably going to get yelled at about from a lot of people. All I'm saying is Warren is better than Biden. That's literally the only thing I'm saying, because Warren is not Joe Biden. So that's step one for her. And two, I think she has about a 4% more chance of beating Donald Trump than if she manages to not collapse in on herself with the Native American jokes that are going to come her way, then maybe she'll do okay. I don't know. But as always, our boy is Bernie, and we always stand for Bernie to come in and shake a finger and yell at everybody, and just basically be our grouchy grandfather who always has Werther's Originals in his pockets.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'd prefer Bernie. Bernie's the one I support. That's who I want. But of course, I would support Warren over Trump. I mean, I don't fucking like Joe Biden, but of course, I would rather have Biden than Trump. It's just a matter of don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. But I mean, shit, man. Sometimes you gotta trust your gut. Like when you're
I ain't voting for Bernie, or I'm not voting for Biden. Fuck that guy. I was yelled at into voting for Clinton. I was yelled at into voting for Claire McCaskill in my local election. Both of them lost. They were both terrible Democrats to begin with. I will not put, if Biden is the nominee, I will not put down a vote for Biden. But also, I live in Missouri, and my vote literally doesn't fucking matter. Thanks, Electoral College.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, I mean, sometimes you got to go with your gut. And so when a guitarist from Blink-182 tells you that he saw aliens, it might actually be true, or at least it might be a real UFO. And if you think Biden's going to lose to Trump, maybe you should go with your gut, because chances are good he's going to. But speaking of UFOs, Francis, for this week's bonus, as he mentioned at the start of this episode, spoke with a Navy aviator, so a weapons systems officer on F-18s, who was a member of the same squadron as the video that the Blink-182 guitarist shared, featuring UFOs, that was confirmed by the Navy. They didn't necessarily say these are aliens and they go to Area 51, but they confirmed that this was an unidentified flying object that was filmed. And he goes by John on our recording. And John said that he's got a whole bunch of experiences with encountering UFOs. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, flying saucers, but a lot of weird shit happens flying over the ocean, apparently. So I want to roll about 10 minutes of that so you can get an idea of what this interview sounds like. So if you want to talk both about UFOs and Navy aviation, why the Marines, as John put it, why our Navy's Army has airplanes that they fly, and all sorts of other stuff. So you can take a listen to this, and if you like it, there's a link in the show notes to sign up on the Patreon and listen to that episode. And at this point, hundreds more.
So we start to kind of see some stuff that we're not really sure what it is. So the way that, without going too far down the rabbit hole, but, we're flying around, and the squadron I was in, we just upgraded all of our radars, and we've been having some issues with what we call ghost track files and stuff out there. So it just kind of inject a radar return that we weren't really sure was there, or it didn't make sense what we're seeing, if it was out there or not. But we've been working through those issues, and the rest of the air wings were using the same radars, and they weren't having the same issues. But so we started to see some stuff, and when you get a radar return, you can cue your forward-looking infrared. So we have we carried AT FLIR. It's a Raytheon product, and you can use it air-to-air or air-to-ground. It's pretty good IR. It's not super good for like TV mode in terms of there's a lot better pods out there. It's not necessarily gonna be the ones like you're seeing when you see video from like an AC-130 or something. They got the super high def. It's a little bit less. It's got other strengths. So we started queuing our FLIRs, and we started actually seeing stuff that was corresponding with these weird returns we were having on our radar. And when I say weird, I just mean like it wouldn't be like a normal flight profile of like something you'd expect to see flying around. So typically you're going to see like, maybe like a Cessna. So I'll be flying pretty low, like below 15,000, probably below 200 knots. might see an airliner. Those guys usually anywhere between like 15 and up to 40,000. They're usually going pretty fast, like 0.8. And then you see other things. If anything didn't kind of fit those profiles, you'd be kind of like, okay, what is this? What are we looking at? And you can interrogate them. You can try to check their transponder codes. You can do all that kind of stuff, but those tools are never 100%, successful. So it's not unusual to get a guy on your radar who you're not really sure. You can't interrogate him. He's not answering you because you're not up whatever radio station he's listening to. So then the only other option is to kind of like go out and try to get your eyeballs on it or get the FLIR on it to identify it.
I have to say that it's very heartening to hear that you two have a bunch of equipment that you're just like, I don't fucking know. Let's just go out and take a look at it and see what's going on out here.
Oh man, yeah.
Except you're in an airplane. Like it's a little different than us. And it's like, let's, just drive the MRAP over there. Like the MRAP doesn't fall out of the sky by accident. So, but okay. So you're going to go get a FLIR on it or go get eyes on it.
Yeah. So, and half the time you're doing this, it's, they do Cessna tours up the Florida coast. So we've actually joined on a couple, like Ma and Pa. It's almost like the scene out of Con Air, when the helicopter comes across the tourist plane. Like we'll join up on those guys. It's pretty funny, and they normally probably just have a good story to tell. But so some of this stuff we're going out there and we're going to try to join on it or go see what it was, and you just couldn't. And then it was maneuvering in ways which seemed really weird. Or we'd get close and we'd go try to basically stern convert it, join at the 6 o'clock position. And you just wouldn't be able to see anything out there with your eyes. So you'd get like a heat return on the FLIR, and you'd have a radar return, but you just couldn't physically see it with your eyes. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, the reason none of this stuff was like super concerning to us at the time is it's just a lot of times there's just stuff, make like a Mylar balloon moving in a different wind layer can move in a way that doesn't appear to be, natural. And you're going to have a huge radar return, but then also when you get close to it with your eyeballs, you may not be able to see it. So, so there's a lot of that, but it just happened so many times that we were all convinced. I mean, that was like the joke on the boat at the time was, have anyone seen the aliens yet today? Because we'd see stuff and it was moving out there pretty weird. And I mean, I don't know. I got a healthy sense of skepticism about a lot of the stuff people claim to see, but there was definitely one of them. One of the videos is about two guys in my squadron, call signs Buddy the Elf and Roxy. They were the guys in the video where he's like, bro, and they were out there, man. And those guys both pretty like down to earth, pretty like unshakable dudes. And they were like, it's definitely something weird. But at the same time, we were kind of at the time like, well, we don't know, because it wouldn't be the first time that they'd use some toys on us that we weren't really supposed to know about either, So, them being, the OPFOR or whatever. So at the time, we didn't really think too much of it, but we obviously did. We came back, and after every flight, you go to Civic, it's like the carrier intel, and you debrief with all the nerds in there, and you show them your tapes, because you got this recording system. You can record pretty much everything in the cockpit, including like your helmet view. So we'd record all that stuff and send it to them, and anything they found weird. And I think that's the only reason these videos even made it up, is because we had the Admiral on board at the time, because we were doing, the integrated war game exercise. So some of that stuff got sent up, because a couple of months prior, I'd been working farther up north off the coast, and we'd actually taken a drone of an unknown. Well, we think it was a drone because it looked too small to have a person in it, but a vehicle, air vehicle of unknown origin, right down the side of the airplane. In airspace, we were in military airspace, but it was supposed to be completely clear. So, like I said, I don't know. It could be our stuff, could be someone else's stuff, could be aliens. So.
Yeah, and today, the day that we are recording, is the day of the Naruto run into Area 51 to bust out the aliens. So that's definitely why I wanted to get on this as soon as possible. But yeah, I feel. Like, I feel that, that people have this weird thing about the government where they think the government is incredibly smart and incredibly stupid at the same time, depending on, it's just like, oh, the government, you go to DMV and it sucks and you can't do anything and it looks terrible or something. But also, they have been hiding aliens from us for decades, and none of us have any kind of proof of it whatsoever. Like, and we have it's kind of like, I don't know if you're Where are you from, John? Regionally in America?
The Northwest. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you know about cow tipping.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with it.
But the thing about cow tipping is it's not real. And the way that you can tell it's not real is go to YouTube and look up cow tipping YouTube videos. They don't exist except for joking ones. So like I kind of feel like in this like age of everybody has a cell phone camera or something, we'd have something a little bit better than some grainy shit in the background or something.
Yeah.
Like all of our really good UFO videos are just like, look at that thing over there on my 8mm camera. Like, well, yeah, look, it could be literally anything. So, yeah, I also have, I generally keep a healthy dose of skepticism anytime somebody says, you see that blob? Yeah, that's aliens.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, there's evidence now, right? We know looking at the archives and stuff that the government itself had a huge interest in stoking that type of that type of furor over UFOs and aliens, right? Because they would rather have people believing in that than whatever they were actually doing.
Sure. Yeah, it's way easier to say it could be aliens and not some top secret flying saucer that we're building, which we tried to do at one point in time. So there's pictures that if you go out there, you can find pictures of the government. We did a lot of weird shit in the 60s, to be perfectly honest. We were trying to build flying. It's like post World War II. It's like build flying saucers and put everybody on LSD and let's see what happens. And that was our government policy for 25 years.
Well, and no one encapsulates that better than the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force, that whole mindset there.
So, John, we could put aside the aliens for a little bit because, like I said, I've always wanted to talk to a pilot. Although you said you're not technically a pilot, right?
I'm not a pilot. I should be forward with that. I'm sure some people will recognize my voice off of here, but I'm not a pilot. This is really cheesy, but the easiest way to describe it is Goose from Top Gun. I'm the guy in the back. So, yeah.
Literally exactly when you told me that, I was thinking, oh, he's Goose. Got it.
Yeah.
Like that is going to be the way everybody thinks about that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But,
so, yeah.
So you got the guy flying, and then what do you do?
Yeah, so in the modern day in the F-18, we primarily run communication. So we'll talk to the controllers, talk to the other aircraft. And then we also will run mission systems. So a lot of times we'll help operate the radar, help operate the FLIR, and then inventory the weapons. So it's kind of right now what we do is basically just split the load for the mission. So kind of have one guy doing stuff in the back and one guy doing stuff up the front. And that's the idea behind it. Although nowadays, unfortunately, with the way that things are automated and crew vehicle interfaces, the days of having people in the backseat of fighter jets are probably numbered because the whole reason we had them traditionally is because historically there was certain equipment that you could only operate from the back or the front. But nowadays, the way everything's computerized, you can kind of split the responsibilities. So the Air Force and the Navy still operate two-seaters. They fly the F-15E, and then we fly the F-18F. And supposedly they're supposed to be kind of more ground attack intensive because it tends to require a little bit more work.
All right, everybody. So thank you for joining us this week. Thank you for everything that you do for us, whether it is giving us thumbs up and 5 stars on iTunes, up to all of you wonderful people who give us your hard-earned dollars on Patreon. That is patreon.com/hellofaWayToDie. As we said, you can get that episode and many others. We put out a bonus episode every week of various content, interviews, reviews of movies and books, and just conversations, cute question and answers. Like if you like the content we have here, but you're like, man, I would love to hear those guys talk in different formats or talk about different things. Have I got a bonus section for you? So go on over to the patreon.com/hellofaWayToDie. $5 a month gets you access to everything. $10 a month gets you access to everything, plus a quarterly zine that has a care package with patches and stickers and a hard copy of a zine that we publish. If you want to get in on writing for that zine, you can contact me. at Army Strang on Twitter, or you can contact Nate at In These Deserts on Twitter. You can also contact us, Sergeant Joker at hellofawaytodie.com. The theme is going to be work. So jobs you had, look, this zine is not just for the military. We have civilians write for it all the time. So if there's anything that you want to add in about work, about unions, about a shitty job that you had or a great job that you had, anything along those lines, feel free to contact us. 500 to 1,000 words, and then those will be due in end of October, mid-November or so. So with that, thank you all so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you next week.